Hey there, my name is Harris Kenny. I'm the founder of OutboundSync, and I'm picking back up our series on enriching HubSpot with Clay. Now, I first started this series about 9 months ago, and what really inspired it was Clay's new job tracking feature. But I found that in order to take full advantage of that, there was some other CRM enrichment and CRM hygiene things that we wanted to do first. So I covered that in the first few videos, how to do contact name, contact phone number, contact LinkedIn profile inside of HubSpot. However, a few things have changed since then. First, Clay has made a lot of progress on that job change tracking feature. When I was testing it in the beginning, it just was a little buggy, and so I didn't want to continue the series until I felt like we were ready to go. Fortunately, it's working really well now, and Clay has also significantly increased its support for HubSpot. And so I am still going to finish this series in the final video, which is coming up next. We will talk about that. The other thing that's changed is that HubSpot has discontinued their company insights feature. This is where HubSpot was enriching company records for free. They're not doing this anymore. So if you haven't noticed yet, there are going to be a lot of company records in HubSpot that do not have a name anymore. And I thought it would be really useful to show how to make up for this using Clay. And we're going to adopt the same techniques that we used previously. Everything we have done in this series so far in the first videos still applies. So I'm going to walk you through that, a little refresher on how that works. And by the end of this video, you're going to know how to use Clay to get the company names from across multiple different data providers inside of HubSpot. Let's jump right in with our HubSpot list. Now, I've done two things here with this active list in HubSpot. The first thing is I have a consistent naming convention. So you'll notice that in all of my videos here, we've got a very similar naming convention that we've got here. I'm just going to show you in green. This naming convention is consistent across our videos and across all our lists. So I can very quickly in HubSpot search to see which lists are being used for this enrichment project. And you'll notice that it's modular. So I have 6 different lists for the 6 different properties or fields that I am dynamically updating with Clay. So that if I want to change that or use different providers, it's very easy to see what's going in and out of HubSpot. I really highly recommend this over doing a large, sort of heavy table that's updating lots of things all at once. This gives you just a lot more control over what's going on, especially as your organization grows. Smaller workflows, tighter automations that are easier to audit and easier to manage. I think you'll be really glad you do it that way. Second is I have 2 different criteria here for company names that I want to go enrich. The first is that the company name is unknown. That's an obvious one. You can see that here. We've got these dashes. But I've also got companies where it contains a dot. And there's a lot of companies where the domain is basically sitting in the place of the company name. And in situations like that, that may be the right name. The company may include their TLD inside of their company name. Like for a long time, Close, the CRM, was close.io. And then they bought the .com and they became just Close. But for a long time, that was the company's name, close.io. And so there are situations where that is correct. However, there are other situations where that's not correct. It's just the domain being used, and so we can find a proper name. And we would prefer to use the proper name. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to show you how to check for that. And if there's a change, we can override it. And if not, we'll leave it as is. Now that our list is built, let's go over to Clay. Now, inside of Clay, we are using HubSpot, and specifically that HubSpot list as our source for the Clay table. This is going to run once a day. Let me see if I can find the settings on this table. Let's see. This Clay, oh, here we go. Sources, import object. Okay, great. So this is running on a schedule. It's going to run once a day, going to look for names to be updated. And I could manually push and update if I need to, but once a day is fine as far as I'm concerned. I don't need to run more frequently than that. You can see the list of companies here that were also found in that previous HubSpot list. I've got the ID, I've got the name, I've got the domain, and now I have a series of enrichments that are running. The first one I'm using is Clay's Enrich Company. And so basically, as we move from left to right in this table, you're going to see we're using increasingly expensive providers. So this is a classic and a very conventional waterfall approach. There's nothing too interesting here. I'm using 1 credit, then 2, then 3, then 8, and then finally a 10 credit enrichment in Owler. And you can see that as we go, I am able to find some with this more expensive provider. And as is the case in almost every enrichment in Clay, maybe all of them now, I'm not sure. But if an enrichment provider doesn't locate the source, you're not going to get charged for it. You're going to get refunded. And you can see that little refunded thing here, right? So I'm not getting charged if Clay's Enrich company doesn't find something. I'm not getting charged if Datagma doesn't find something. Don't get charged by Rocket Reach. Don't get charged by Clearbit. Don't get charged by Owler. So if they have the data, basically they get paid more for it. Okay. Now I have run conditions set for each of these columns. I'm just going to give you one example where if the Clay column here is empty, has no results, then run the next column, run Datagma. Conversely, if it has results, don't run it, right? I don't need to be checking the same one over and over and over again. So we've got 5 providers, and then finally we have a merge column that's pulling them together in order. And it's going in order of the enrichments. This is pretty cool. I have a checkbox column that's basically saying if the discovered name, if there is a discovered name, and it's not the same as the existing name, in other words, we found a new one, mark that as true. Now, I did this in a checkbox column just to make it visual. Technically, you don't need to do this. You could do this as a run condition in a subsequent or a later column, but whatever. I thought it was a nice, clean way to show, hey, we're finding new data. You could filter that way if you wanted to, using the filters inside of Clay. Found new name, and you could do that as a checkbox filter if you want. Here, let's do that. So for 224 of these, we found a new name. So what does that mean? Like, why would I do that? Well, basically, if it's the same as before, there's no reason in updating the record, right? So leadoff.ai, the name that was found on LinkedIn, which is the source for this Enrich company record, is the same as what's already in HubSpot. So I'm not going to rewrite it. Finally, I'm using the normalize company name enrichment from Clay. Now, this is just using, I think, some logic that's coded in, some regex, regular expressions. I actually played around with quite a few different ways of doing this using AI, including ClayGent, including just a regular API call into OpenAI. I didn't want to introduce new errors, and I was finding that was happening enough that I didn't really feel like it was necessary to include AI in this case. Excuse me. If we can find the company name, great, let's use it. If we can't, that's fine. We'll just leave it as is. And here you can see what that cleanup looks like. So if we can find a good example here, this is, let's see. A lot of these are pretty straightforward. Trying to find a good one for you. You know, eChabot Ltd, just shortened it to eChabot. Sorry if there's a different way of saying that. I'm not sure what language that is. But, you know, it just cleans it up a little bit for HubSpot, which is nice. And then finally, we're going to run an enrichment here in HubSpot. We're going to be updating the company record. We're looking up the ID from our original list. We're taking our clean and ready domain name, and we're only going to run it as long as it's a new name that was discovered. And once we run this, it's going to be pretty straightforward. It's going to update the company names in HubSpot, and we're stacking. If you look at the previous videos in this series, you'll see that we're stacking enrichment upon enrichment upon enrichment. Finally, we're going to have job tracking so that when there's a job change from an existing contact in our CRM, we go to see what's going on. We're going to just have a nice, clean environment to work in to see what has changed since we were in Clay last. So remember, this is no longer supported by HubSpot's company insights. HubSpot does have a Breeze AI enrichment that does a lot of other things, and frankly, that might be a good fit for what you're looking for. But if you just need company name, you can use Clay to do that in the way that I've shown you here. If you've got ideas for how you would do this differently, definitely let me know. I would love to see them. I'd love to hear it. I would love to know if there's different providers that you use that you like more. I tested quite a few different providers beyond what you see in the video, and I played around with AI quite a bit. Ultimately, I felt like this was the do no harm, right? Precautionary principle. This is going to give us a really solid, low risk, small c conservative name that we can have inside of HubSpot without introducing errors unnecessarily. So there you go. Try it out. Let me know what you think. And in the final video, we are going to finally look at how to track job changes using Clay for your contacts that are inside of HubSpot. And I'll give you a little sneak peek. We're going to be using the lead object because that's what we use internally. And so we show you how to use the lead object to create a new lead when a job change is detected. There are going to be other ways to do that, like creating tasks, but I'm going to show you how to do it with the lead object using HubSpot. And if you're using Breeze AI, you don't need to do any of this. So if you're not familiar, check out Breeze AI, which is HubSpot's CRM hygiene enrichment product, which is really spurred on by their Clearbit acquisition. And you can see we are actually using Clearbit as a provider here in this waterfall as well. All right, thanks so much, and we'll see you in the next one.